Welcome to the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I'm Tony Haggerty, Haggerty10, and I'm joined, as always, by Sean Martin at Sean Martin TCW. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember to hit the subscribe button and you'll get videos like this. Sean, it's finally arrived. Celtic's big moment in Europe, going to Germany to play Bayer Leverkusen, a 4-0 tanking at the home game, but some positives in that. It's a kind of critical game in the 6-game series. Decide Europa League fate to see if we're playing the Europa League or the Conference League. Sean, are you going there with optimism?
I wish I was going there full stop. But optimism, I suppose you could use that word. I mean, it's not a daunting task, but it's not the most daunting task, because they might have won, and Ange Postecoglou might have been talking them up yesterday, but they have been going through a bit of a blip themselves, which you could almost say is the reverse of the first fixture between Celtic and Leverkusen, because I think it was 2 wins and 7 for Celtic when they faced Leverkusen the last time. They had injuries. There was several questions being asked about the run that they were on. Leverkusen were sitting second in the Bundesliga. I think they're fourth now, which is still, it's still one of the strongest leagues. But they've been going through a blip, whereas Celtic are on a 9-match unbeaten run. So I think it's sort of the narratives of each club have almost flipped. They're not going through as bad a run as what Celtic had at that point. But so for that reason, and the fact that Celtic are obviously so in form, that there's got to be reasons to be optimistic there.
I hate to say I try and stay away from the fact that my father calls them Bayer Leverkusen, right? And every time I got it in my head and I say it only because he was at we all went to Real Madrid, Bayer Leverkusen at Hampden.
Aye.
We semi when Zidane scored that goal, and I was in the main stand. My father and brother were in the away end, and he came away thinking they were singing na 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 Bayer Leverkusen. And that's all I got all night. And it's in my head. Every time I hear Bayer Leverkusen, it's in my head. So I need to refrain from saying that. Yeah, the task is a gargantuan one, Sean. Mm-hmm. Celtic have never won on German soil in a European tie. It's quite an amazing stat, that. But we were making the point when we picked our teams, and again, we've picked the same team as each other. This managerial malarkey's a doddle. Move over Ange. We've got it sorted. And so, mission impossible. Well, not mission impossible, but it's proved so far to be mission impossible in Germany, but mission improbable, you'd say. But I just think that Celtic could actually do something tonight. I've got to be honest. I'm travelling. Well, I'm not travelling, but I would be travelling in a positive frame of mind. The Celtic are playing well. They're in the first domestic cup final of the season, and they're feeling good about themselves.
There's a first time for everything. It's got to happen at some stage. So why not the night? I'm not getting carried away. I'm not saying, as I say, that I'm not saying it's an easy game. It's obviously still a daunting task, as I said, but it's got to happen at some stage. They're in a 9-match unbeaten run. They're in form. They've just got a League Cup final. It's possible.
Yeah. I'm going on to the comments here. Rab McEwen comes in. Morning, Rab. How you doing? Regular contributor. I'm very hopeful. But even if we get belted 4-0 again, and Ange, I'll still trust. Cal's a wee bit more positive. 2-1 Celtic. Ewan Boy Martin comes in, another regular contributor. I am never excited for tonight's game. Coming on, I think get a draw tonight. We need to be at it for 90 minutes. Great show, guys. That's very kind. Cheers. And Cal comes back in again. This is the day Jota and Kyogo perform away. There we go. Ted comes in. Current team, give me hope that we can get a result in Germany. And Peter Calero comes in again. The joys of getting up at 4:30 a.m. to watch Celtic play at 4:45 a.m. Peter, we salute that, definitely. Sean Kern comes in again. This is a good chance there's any to win in Germany. And Ewan comes in and makes a point. We won in Italy a few seasons ago, so why not in Germany? Talk about optimism, Sean. There it's here for you.
Yep. And why not? As I say, it's when you're on a 9-match unbeaten run, you can't not be optimistic. Surely it's not doom and gloom. It's the opposite from the last time they faced Leverkusen. Whether or not that was at home, it wasn't necessarily a very positive frame of mind that most people would have went into that game with.
Yeah.
Although, and Ange Postecoglou pointed out at his presser yesterday, and I've said it a few times, as much as it was 4-0, and you can't dress up 4-0 getting beat at home, especially for Celtic. It's poor, but in context, and Ange mentioned it yesterday, the chances that Celtic had before the game got away from them would give you optimism as well. And as I say, they're in a better place than they were then, whether or not it's away. And obviously, you've said yourself, they've never won away in Germany. Celtic as a club have never won away in Germany, not necessarily these players, which again I would say feeds into the almost when you're playing young players, that kind of thing, that there's no history to be had, so there's no fear to be had, that kind of thing. So I genuinely think the optimism has a firm grounding in fact as well.
Steve McNeil comes in and says, I think Celtic will win tonight. And Kieran Nolan comes back in and says, Ange wants to measure ourselves in the game tonight. That alone tells you about the optimism in the camp. And I think all these things are very true. Now, our team, Sean, we picked the same team and we replaced, from the starting lineup on Saturday, we replaced Abada for Forrest, didn't we?
Yep.
That's basically what we did. And we put it out on Twitter and social media, and a lot of people were saying the same thing, that Forrest for Abada all day long, and have that triumvirate up front of Jota, Forrest and Kyogo, which could be quite formidable if it clicks into place.
Dynamite was the word that I used.
Yes.
I just think it could be, whether that's that dynamite is tonight or whether it's domestic. I still think that the three of them up front together will be formidable against anybody, really. Kyogo and Jota themselves have already proven so, with Abada ably assisting, maybe not getting as much of the plaudits and maybe not being as consistent, but he's still, and this is actually feeding into a piece that's going up now. I think it might be live on the site now, where I've kind of looked at underlying stats as well, and Abada actually comes through looking pretty good, to be honest, despite the fact that I think we both agree he's had quite a volatile season in terms of up and down performances. The underlying numbers suggest he's very much an effective player. I think one of our columnists, Alan Morrison, put a column up to that effect the other week as well. So that would seem to reinforce that work as well. So it's not to say that Abada's suddenly undeserving or not up to it, that kind of thing. I think the two of us, correct me if I'm wrong, simply think that James Forrest is the first choice winger, and he's obviously come on in Hampden and made the game changing contribution, and therefore next game, why not?
Comments still coming in. Tim and On comes back in. Celtic fans are the eternal optimists, so why not get a result? Martin Kelly comes in. Kyogo do a wee runner for him. Brad McEwen back in. 100% correct. Forrest for Abada. Sean comes. Abada does well in Europe, and he has done well in Europe. I agree with that, Sean. Steve McNeil, I think Forrest has to start. Cal comes in. Lazio away was a bigger task. Don't deny that. Another great result. And Brown Stewart comes in. 2-1 Celtic. Yes, I think we've filled everybody with optimism here, Sean. They're all we're all eagerly and anticipating this clash, so it should be good. Well, going into these away games, knowing Ange will set us up to go for it is refreshing and nail biting. Yes, I think that's very true, Mark. But that's the one thing, he'll go for it, Sean, because he knows no other.
Well, I mean, it may. I kind of, when I was doing my points from the presser yesterday, obviously I was trying to kind of interpret stuff, and he mentioned more than once, which he usually does. I wrote a couple of articles over the season so far about how much he mentions belief. Like, he mentions it constantly, but it's also, yesterday his buzzword was almost concentration, focus, that kind of thing. And that's because of the first game against them, where the Celtic did have the chances that I mentioned. And he basically said himself that if it wasn't for the fact that their concentration and their composure went a wee bit after conceding, he thinks they still could have done something in that game. But obviously it ended up 4-0 because the game got away from them. And he was at pains to stress that will be as important as anything else tonight, which will be, if they do make a mistake, they need to make sure that they don't lose the composure as well as that moment, that kind of thing. Because he obviously has the faith. He obviously has the faith that Celtic have got enough about them to threaten Leverkusen. The chances in the first game show that. And again, I'll say it, that was when they were in a far worse place than what they're in at the moment. So he'll be getting into this game thinking that they can lay a couple of gloves on them. And it will just depend on that word again, concentration.
Speaking of gloves, their goalkeeper had a worldie at Celtic Park as well, if you remember.
Yep, right.
He had one of those games where you weren't beating them. So that's another factor to take into consideration.
On the subject of gloves, Joe Hart, actually, I've mentioned him in my predicted lineup. He needs to have a... Like, I don't want to go overboard with it because he's been very good. I've wrote a couple of things praising him. We sat on here one of the days and praised him to the hilt because he's been making saves that, frankly, the keepers that we had before wouldn't make. Crucial saves as well. The last couple of games, however, he's had a couple of wobbly moments. He's had a rush of blood to the head against Dundee. He said the kind of almost too lackadaisical moment against St Johnstone. So I think Celtic really need to be back on top form for this one. As much as you're saying about the Leverkusen keeper, they already saw the goal threat that Leverkusen can carry as well. So I think Joe Hart's performance will be key as much as anything else.
Yeah. Now, Steve McNeil comes on. Lots of 2-1 predictions, Sean. There you go. Sean Haggerty comes in and says Joe Hart is unpredictable. Well, I wouldn't go that far. He's had blips, as you say, but he's been pretty solid since he came in.
No, he's definitely over. He's a net positive for me. He's definitely
without a doubt, yeah,
been a good addition so far.
And he's one of those guys who will relish this big game experience, and he's been there, seen it, and done it, and might help to calm a few others down in the process. Because you go to Germany, it is a massive task to win in Germany. As Celtic are prone in their European history, not being able to do that. And Leverkusen are a very good side, but maybe not hitting the heights that they were, as you say, in the first game when they came to Celtic Park. So anything is possible, Sean, isn't it? That's the way we've got to look at it.
That's the thing. Right. Got a comment there from David Bradley asking if Rogic is fit. Ange said at the presser yesterday that he's probably looking at the weekend before Rogic is available, which is it's a shame because it would have been good to have had that option. Where even if it was off the bench, it would have been good to have had that option. I'm sure, because how many times have I said this season, sat here boring you all saying about the squad depth and having it's not the plan A. It's the fact that he never had somebody to come on and reinvigorate it and all that. Rogic's done that, and that game that you earmarked, Tony, as a potential season turning game, the Aberdeen game. Rogic come on. All right, you never get the actual assist for the winner. It was Montgomery that get the assist, but it was Rogic causing havoc and playing him through. And that was someone coming off the bench who has genuine game-changing potential. You saw it again on Saturday. James Forrest on the bench comes on and wins a game. It's absolutely key to Celtic that you have players like that on the bench that will actually come on and make a difference and not just come on necessarily to see out a game that they're already winning.
Well, high scoring game tonight, 3-2 win for the boys. Well, there you go. That would be a bit of a cracker. And Brown Stewart comes in. When is Julian coming back? Did he mention Julian yesterday? That's all, Sean? He's
still not there as far as we're aware. I think it's what's it been, 10 months now? Has it been more than that? Might be more than that. But
December 30th will be a year, won't it?
Aye, right enough. I
believe so.
Over 10 months, but
11 months.
But nah, he wants a game. Whenever he mentions Julian, you do get the impression he just does not want to rush him before he's absolutely certain, which is fair enough. He's been out for so long. And
we've spoken about that. You cannot take any unnecessary risk with Julian.
On that note, like the centre half note, like we were talking about it yesterday before we done our predicted lineups. Just asking if Welsh was fit, basically. And I think that is a positive that he's fit. He's obviously still got some stuff to learn and that, but you quite rightly said that the alternative probably wouldn't have been like Liam Scales. It would have probably been near Beaton going back to centre back again. So Welsh being fit means that doesn't have to happen, and Beaton can stay in centre mid where he's actually been playing really well.
Yeah, I think you can't argue with that. Beaton's actually strung together a consistent runner for him, and had Celtic had to take him out of that and put him back in a defensive position, it would have put you in a negative frame of mind, wouldn't it? And it's not Beaton's fault per se.
No. I think it have interrupted his flow as well.
Yeah, and I think the momentum is building, confidence is building, players kind of know what they're doing, So, yeah, you trust the manager. Celtic will win 2-1. There's another one, Sean. There you go. I mean,
that's it. I'm going to the bookies.
The Celtic supporters are they're full of the joys at this minute in time, which is great to see. We contrast that from 5 months ago. Nobody would have thought we would be in this position, predicting we're going to win 2-1 in Germany and win a European tie in German soil for the first time. So I'm loving this optimism, guys. Keep it coming. You'll try and give your optimism as well. But I think it's... I hesitate to use the words free hit, Sean, but I think Celtic have got 2 games to just have a rip at this Europa League and see if they can make the knockout stages of the Europa League. Conference League's a decent consolation prize if you want to put it that way. But, if you're Celtic, let's have a go to it. As a comment I said, measure yourself against the best.
Aye.
Go and have a go and try and create another piece of a slice of football history for Celtic by winning in Germany.
Well, you used that word there, measure yourself against the best. That's exactly the words that Ange Postecoglou used yesterday. He wants to see Celtic, and I've mentioned this in the points in the press as well, not just go there and try and take something from a team that is considered the best in the group, but actually go there and try and impose their own style on that team. Yeah. And in that way, measure yourselves how good you're actually getting at this style, at this system, at this philosophy. And I think that's a great thing to hear from your manager. And again, another thing I pointed out, which one of my pals says it might have been a dig at Neil Lennon. It obviously wasn't. It was simply taking Ange Postecoglou's words at face value and thinking how much a player must appreciate and how almost liberating it must be for a manager who's asking you to play in a certain way, but will have no temptation whatsoever to throw you in a firing line if you try to do it and it doesn't come off, like that kind of thing.
Well, he's on record as saying anything bad that happens, he'll take the flak for that. Now, you get a manager that believes in you and he's sending you out to go and express yourself. That's the most liberating thing for me, Sean. There is no shackles. He's saying, go out and pose your game on Bayer Leverkusen. But above all else, go and compete. Go and show them that you can compete against the best. So if that's the kind of drill that the Celtic players are getting, why wouldn't you walk out there with your chest puffed out, feeling 10 foot tall? Do it for yourself, but if anything else, you'd want to do it for your manager. If he is telling you, look, let's do this, what's stopping you from winning in Germany? Let's go and let's go for it, basically, because as he says, he knows no other way to play. That's just the way he'll play, and he's not going to change it. And it's starting to pay some rich dividends now.
No, I agree. I totally agree. And I think the other thing that came across, if you want to put it that way, is, and I think you'll probably field questions about being pragmatic and changing his style and that still all season, even though everybody knows it's not the case, right? Everybody knows that's not going to be the case. But if results take a dip, we probably will face those questions again. But just as if to reiterate it, he kind of mentioned, and I think we've both kind of said this before as well, that certainly I did. I like my boxing, so I've used boxing analogies more than anything else this season, I think. But when he says about, remember he said earlier in the season, somebody'd rather go down swinging than that kind of thing, right? a lot of people jumped on that thinking like he's just going to go all out attack. It doesn't matter what happens the other end, that kind of thing. And I think you've already seen this season. That's not necessarily what he means. He does care what happens at the other end. He just wants them to play the way that he's trying to instill in them, regardless of the situation, that kind of thing. So for me, it was never that they're going to just go frenzied and just see how many they can land, and it doesn't matter if they get hit back, that kind of thing. It was always meant to be more calculated than that. And I think that comes through when you hear him talking about the way that he wants, as you say, wants Celtic to measure up against the best team in the league.
Now, the big question, Sean, is what does he think about the ticket allocation for the final? His response to that was fantastic. I don't want to dwell on that, but I just thought he dealt with that superbly well, didn't he? He's got enough to concern himself with, hasn't he? Trying to get results.
They're playing Leverkusen tonight, Tony. Come on, I'll give you a freebie.
I mean, that was just a moment of comedy gold. Fair play to him for saying you're not getting another question. Yeah, just need the guy like ask another question. Make it count. And I just I see him and I look at him and I watch him doing these things, Sean. And you feel quite proud that that's your manager, that's who's representing your football club. See that the other day he's becoming more and more statesman-like, isn't he? And a kind of Martin O'Neill, Brendan Rodgers, Jock Stein mould. He speaks very well. He handles himself very well. He presents himself very well. And you look at him in every passing day and everything. Every time he speaks to the media, you get that wee kind of surge and you think, yep, that's our manager. That's the guy I like. That's who I want to be in charge of my football club.
I think Michael Quinn here, he's a king of the put downs. That is what I would say is with his put downs. is that there's no malice in them, which is the best thing. It is just like, it's not. Sometimes it's indifference. It's like, why are you even asking me that? Like,
correct. Probably incredulous as well that we've just a left field. But he's going out to face a German side. Celtic have never won in Germany. I mean, I think the furthest thing out in his mind would be, the ticket split. And
don't get me wrong, the actual the topic of the ticket split, we talked about it as well on Tuesday. Like it was still fresh, but it was the first question. It was the first question the night before the Bayer Leverkusen Europa League massive game. So I think that was the point. But
I think, as you say, he is a king of the put downs, and there's no malice. But and it shows he's got a sense of humour as well. His open goal interview, which was terrific, showed that as well. Just a side to him that you rarely get to see when you sit him down. But the more and more he speaks, the more and more you kind of, the Celtic fans are falling in love with him, really, aren't they? Bottom line.
And we're all forgetting here, as Will's pointing out, he's up for the BAFTA for that Christmas plan.
Aren't all the Celtic players and staff and squad up for a BAFTA for that? I don't know, is it BAFTA or DAFTA awards maybe? Maybe the DAFTA awards are up for, but yeah, if you've not watched either the open goal interview or the Celtic Christmas ad, I suggest you do it. They're good, very good in fact. Well, Sean, we shall reconvene at some point tonight.
Yep.
After the game, I think we might be doing a briefing after the game. I'm not sure.
All right. Okay.
Maybe that's an exclusive that I've just given to you there. I think that could be the plan. But failing that, I hope everybody enjoys it. Thanks for your contribution, guys. We really appreciate it every day. That's why we read so many of them out. We love the interaction. And we'll pray for a Celtic victory tonight and see if we can create some history by winning in Germany for the first time. Oh, yes. Sean can win. Okay, we'll end with this.
All right.
Okay, Sean.
Not letting us away with it there.
No letting us. I nearly got there, Sean. Nearly got there. Go on. What's your prediction?
Oh, mine. How can I say anything other than a positive result after all this positivity? We all won if I sit and go right 1-0 by Leverkusen. So many people say it's 2-1, but I feel that would be a cop-out for me to say 2-1. I said 1-0 on Saturday, going conservative, and which is against the habit of a lifetime. But I think on this occasion, I think there will be goals. So I think it might be like the Betis game. I think you might have 3-4 goals in it. So 2-2 or 3-2 Celtic. Why not? Optimism.
Go on. I'm going to take everybody's advice now. I'm going to go 2-1. Not coping out. I just think Celtic could win. Do something ridiculous and win. So I'm going to say 2-1. Hope you have a great day, guys. All the best. Thanks for tuning in.
See you later.